Welcome in. I'm Juliette Goodrich in for Reed Cowan. Tropical Storm Debby makes landfall again, this time in South Carolina as it continues moving north. Plus, it is a battleground blitz. The Harris Walls campaign sweeps through the Southwest with Trump and Vance challenging them along the way. This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go. All right, right off the top, we start with breaking news. This one out of Berkeley, California. What we're seeing is a major police presence. It's near the UC Berkeley campus. So the school's notification system says gunshots were reported near the Clark Kerr campus track. So people right now are being told to clear out, avoid that area. And according to the UC Berkeley alert system, police and emergency personnel are responding as we speak. Students are getting warnings and emails as well and alerts. So following this developing story all morning long, we'll certainly bring you the latest from Berkeley, California as soon as we get new information. All right, let's go to more video feeds. And right now we're going to take you to Charlotte, North Carolina. So right now our feeds are showing the tropical storm Debby taking aim again at this area, unleashing torrential rain, destructive flooding. The storm is also spawning several tornadoes, killing at least one person in North Carolina. And here is a look at just some of the damage. These communities are flooded. Roads are literally breaking apart, as you can see. So we'll be covering this storm all day long. But let's begin with meteorologist Jessica Burt. She's tracking Debby's path. Jess.
Well, let's start off with the fact that as it moved its way from the Gulf all the way over into the Atlantic, it impacted people from Florida all the way up along that coastline. The Carolinas stretching all the way up into the Northeast now as we head into the coming days. This storm has been a slow-moving one, and that causes a lot of concerns when it comes to flash flood warnings and advisories. And we can see that on the map right now. That tropical storm warning still in effect along that coastline. We're also keeping a close eye on tornado activity as we head all the way up closer to Virginia, West Virginia. That region is going to get hit heavy as we head into the next 24 hours. Taking a look behind me, I want to start off with the current location of Tropical Storm Debby. It's starting to decay, which is great news, but it's decaying over many populated areas all throughout the communities of Virginia, stretching down into North Carolina. We're currently seeing that heavy downpour still last, and this track will continue to move its way to the north. What's happening now is as it starts to decay, it's losing all that energy, all of that rain starting to fall, stretching all the way up into Pennsylvania, expected to hit all the way up into New York within the next 72 hours. And we keep a close eye on that track because this is causing a lot of devastation to those communities, with tropical storm warnings still in effect, like we mentioned, along the coast, with surges widespread throughout those coastlines, and of course tornado activity too. Here's the rainfall within just the next 48 hours. This is stretching all the way up into Harrisburg, New York, getting a little taste of the storm too. And keep in mind, this one started all the way down in the Gulf, like we mentioned, so it's definitely impacting that whole East Coast. An enhanced risk right now for our severe weather outlook stretches anywhere from Virginia all the way down into North Carolina, and tornado threat still low right now along that coastline, but we are continuing to track that as we head into the next 24 hours. Jules, this has been an active storm.
Yeah, absolutely, Jess. Thank you. So let's take us all there, shall we? CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides continues our team coverage. I know you're moving from location to location. What's happening right now in your spot, and where are you?
Juliette, well, as you drive around here, parts of North Carolina look like this. If you take a look right behind me, we're just outside of Bladenboro. We were actually trying to mobilize to Lumberton, but prior to getting to Lumberton, we wanted to show you guys a little bit of the flooding. There was an issue at the location we were at, so we got in the car, started driving, and we saw this. We had to just sort of jump out and show this to you. You can see that that's somebody's driveway. And so folks, this, are driving up to their homes, and then this is what they're seeing. So some people are sort of stuck in their homes. They can't get out until all that water goes down so they can get out with their vehicles and go on about their business. We were in downtown earlier where we spoke to a number of business owners. We spoke to a pharmacist. He has the only pharmacy in town. It was flooded, and he told me that there's just this significant pressure for him to get back up and running, because this is a small town where everyone knows each other. There was and because he's the only pharmacy in town, he wants to be there for his clientele, all of whom, are people that he knows and he's known for a long time. Right across the street from him, there is a market. In that market, we spoke to another woman who said that as water started rushing in, about 20 people from the town just got there and started helping her put things up on the shelves, so that they wouldn't get wet. She still had some damage, but she said that just speaks to people coming together here. Once again, this is sort of what we've been seeing while we're out here. Pockets of flooding like this. All of downtown at one point was flooded. Thankfully, that water has receded, and at this point, we're just sort of assessing how things look around here. But again, this was significant rainfall for this small town.
Yeah, and communities helping communities, and it becomes an emergency concern, especially when you're talking about pharmacies trying to get medication and those small businesses. I don't know if you know this, because I know you just drove to that location, but the homeowners directly behind you, are they stuck inside? Are they cleared out? Do you know? Is that road just impassable right now?
Just to give you a sense of how things are sort of developing from our end, we actually just drove by this. So we have not spoken to the homeowner back there, but this is not atypical of what we've been seeing around here. Earlier, we were at a road where we saw that there was a box truck that was on its side. We were trying to get to that location, but the location has been closed off. There are a number of closed off roads here. There was a woman there, her name is Joyce, and she was the one that actually told us, well, you can't go this way, but this is how you get to the center of town. It just goes to show how people around here sort of are just in this sort of feeling that they want to help people. And so they saw us there, us and our crew, and we were trying to get through all of these flooded roads, and she pointed us in the right direction. Of course, this, as I said, significant rainfall here. We're still seeing some flooded spots, and that's just what we've been seeing as we're driving around here. Now we're heading to Lumberton. Lumberton, we know, was concerned about what sort of flooding they may get there. We spoke to a barbershop owner up there and a couple days ago, and he told us that he was concerned about the potential of his barbershop flooding, that it had flooded during storms in the past.
Well, I appreciate your live shot. You just got out of the car for us to show us that location, and we'll follow you all morning long. Christian, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on now. Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, they've actually had to postpone events in Georgia and North Carolina because of Debby. So they're spending a second day campaigning in Detroit before heading to Phoenix, Arizona. So WWJ's Andreas Gutierrez, he joins us now from Detroit to tell us what we can expect from the Harris-Walz ticket today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, good day. There is just a lot of excitement in this room. Right now, you have members of the United Auto Workers Union, the rank and file, as well as leadership here, all anticipating to see what Vice President Harris will say. We got a preview of that yesterday when she held her first campaign rally here earlier in Detroit at the DTW airport, where she talked about how important it is for the working class, how they're going to have to galvanize. This obviously is going to be a big celebration for labor. We're right now inside the Union Hall of Local 900, and this, to give you a sense of where we're at, right across the street from the Michigan Assembly Plant, and this was the epicenter during the 40-day strike that they held back in September and October of last year. And during that strike, President Biden did come out to the picket line, first sitting president to do so, and show his support for what they were doing out here on the picket line. And so Vice President Harris trying to continue that with her new running mate, Tim Walz, who has had a very strong track record with labor. And so this is going to be essentially them trying to say, hey, you've got to get out and vote. Make sure you get your brothers and sisters within the union to head out to the polls come November. Fain did have a chance to speak at that rally last night, in which he railed against former President Donald Trump. He has said that he has been beholden to billionaires, and he called him a scab during that rally yesterday. today. He also implored that this is a class warfare between the corporate greed that's happening and also the working class. So he's trying to set up that dynamic. And he's also brought up the fact that Trump 5 years ago, when he was in office, there were rallies. There was a picket against a strike against GM plants, and Trump did nothing. So again, this is going to be a celebration of labor out here in Detroit.
Well, that's my next question. You say celebration. So what is the sense and the mood that you're getting from people in Detroit with all of this attention there?
Well, just the other day, there was primary day here in Michigan, and there was one voter who I met who said that she was not planning to vote at all this year. But once she learned that Biden was stepping aside and Kamala Harris was going to be the next nominee, it galvanized her to go out there into the polls and cast her ballot.
Mission accomplished for their event then, for that particular voter. All right. Thank you so much for your live report. We'll stay in touch. Thank you. So let's move on. Former President Donald Trump, he is holding a campaign event of his own at Mar-a-Lago, Florida. So this will be his first public appearance since Harris announced Walz as her running mate. So we'll certainly be covering that in about an hour. All right. Meanwhile, speaking at a rally in Wisconsin, J.D. Vance, who is an Iraq War veteran, well, he targeted Walz's military record, saying he retired from the National Guard to avoid deployment to Iraq in 2005. The Republican vice presidential nominee also seized the opportunity to call out Harris for not taking questions from the media. Take a listen.
She's running from the media, refusing to answer tough questions, and hoping that a basement campaign is going to earn her a promotion. And I think we ought to say to Kamala Harris, you are fired. Your policies didn't work, your agenda doesn't work, and it's not what the American people want.
So we've noticed Vance has been following around the Harris campaign recently, trying to combat Democratic efforts. All right, coming up, we are going to take you live to Paris. We're checking in on the updated Olympic medal count and Noah Lyles, who will race the 200 meters in just about an hour. You're watching CBS News 24/7. We'll be right back. Several upcoming Taylor Swift concerts have been canceled in Vienna, Austria, after authorities say they foiled a terrorist plot targeting the tour. So 2 suspects right now, they are in custody. One happens to be a 19-year-old who authorities say had pledged allegiance to ISIS. So we're getting a look at that suspect. Australian authorities releasing this picture. So it was taken by the suspect himself. It is blurred, as you can see. And he used it in social media posts. Police say they found unidentified chemical substances at the 19-year-old's home. But a source does tell CBS News there were not enough components to make a functional bomb. Both suspects are believed to have been radicalized online. And officials say one of the 2 confessed to planning to, quote, kill as many people as possible outside the concert venue. So the concert was expected to draw 65,000 fans today, tomorrow, and Saturday, with tens of thousands more gathering outside the venue. Obviously, the news leaving fans both shaken and disappointed. Joining me now is CBS News Pentagon reporter and producer Ellie Watson. Ellie, thank you. I know you're in Vienna as we speak. You were supposed to go to tonight's concert. I mean, people must be heartbroken as yourself. And how did you find out that the concert was canceled, and what did you learn?
Well, so thank you for having me. So Yesterday we had gone down to the merchandise tents, like right outside of the stadium, bought all of our merchandise. I actually have a poster of Taylor Swift with the Vienna dates on it. Came back, was just enjoying getting our outfits ready for tomorrow. Got the breaking news alert that 2 suspects had been arrested. Thought initially, okay, glad this maybe we're safe tomorrow. We're going to have a fun time. Weren't even thinking about the potential dangers, but hopefully the 2 arrests are it. You know, the plot is foiled. Then as I was sleeping, I got a call from my younger sister, and then subsequent calls from a lot of my friends who knew I was here, knew my friends were here, and let us know that the concert was canceled. Looked up the concert organizer's Instagram, which said that all 3 shows, not just our show, but all 3 shows here in Vienna were canceled because of this suspected plot, and that the tickets would be refunded. That was last night. So pretty devastated last night. Today, walked around, saw a lot of Taylor Swift fans who were upset but also uniting a lot of people in their outfits that they were going to wear tonight or tomorrow, and exchanging friendship bracelets and singing. A lot of the restaurants that I've actually walked past today have been playing Taylor Swift songs on their own. I came across a group who found one of these restaurants and were singing at the top of their lungs some of the songs.
I believe it. Swiftie fans, they band together, rain or shine or terrorist plot or not, which is unbelievable. I know we're waiting to hear from a comment from Taylor Swift, and just knowing her as a performer, she must be shattered for all of her fans as well.
Yeah, a few years ago, if you remember, there was that attack in Manchester at an Ariana Grande concert. It killed several of her fans. It left her shaken, but Taylor Swift at the time also commented that she was terrified. And before this Eras tour got up and going, she made a few comments hoping that everyone would be safe, that this would be a time for fans to come see. And the reason that the Eras tour is what it is, all of her albums, is because she didn't get to tour for a few years because of COVID. So it's become a smash hit because of all the songs. A lot of her fans have been waiting for years to see her live, and a lot of people traveled a long way to see the show. We learned today, we heard from the mayor in London, her next shows are supposed to be in London, and so far those seem to be going as planned despite the scare here in Vienna.
All right. Well, safety is a top priority. And Ellie, I'm glad you are safe. And I know you will go to her concert as well as others, because she will certainly reschedule that at a safer time. Thank you for your joining us today. All right. Let's move on to a Nobel Prize laureate. Took the oath of office this morning in Bangladesh and is now leading the country's interim government. So this is just a few days after the president dissolved parliament. Mohammed Yunus is now tasked with restoring the South Asian country that's been without a government since the prime minister resigned and fled on Monday. So for the last month, Bangladesh faced violent clashes between student protesters and police. Students were angered over government job quotas, which led to the uprising. During the clashes, 300 people were killed. Russian-American ballerina Ksenia Karelina pleads guilty to treason in front of a Russian court. The dual citizen was on trial for a donation that she made that was supporting Ukraine in 2022 that was apparently supposed to go to supplies for the Ukrainian army. Well, now prosecutors are seeking a 15-year sentence. Her hearing comes a week after we reported on the historic 24-prisoner swap between 7 countries, including Russia and the U.S. A verdict will be announced later today. On to Japan, where a 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck the main southern island of Kyushu, prompting a tsunami warning for residents in the area. And the Japan Meteorological Agency said they detected tsunami waves more than 1.5 feet about half an hour after this shaking started. All right, we're going to show you local video from the north part of the island. It caught the moment that this earthquake hit. So far, fortunately, no serious damage or injuries to anyone, according to authorities. Now, but people did report broken windows at an airport near the epicenter. Officials sending out this warning not to enter the sea or approach the coast until this warning is lifted. Utah carrying out their first execution since 2010, this via lethal injection. Taberon Dave Honey was convicted of killing his girlfriend's mother back in 1998 and then sexually abusing one of her grandchildren who was in the home at the time of the murder. The 48-year-old's execution warrant was finally signed in June after decades of failed appeals. Honey worked with media to create a final statement.
From the start, it's been, if it needs to be done for them to heal, let's do this. If they tell you you can't change, don't listen to them. To all my brothers and sisters here, continue to change. I love you all. Take care.
Honey was one of 6 people facing execution in Utah. All right, coming up, we're going to take you live to Paris. Big day for men's basketball. Our Dana Jacobson's going to break it all down for us. You're watching CBS News 24/7. Checking in on the updated medal count, and it is tight between the United States and China for the gold medal lead. China picked up 2 more golds this morning in diving and canoeing, bringing them into a tie, actually, with the U.S. at 27 now. So the overall medal count, though, easily in America's favor. And that medal count expected to go up again today with a couple of American stars in action on the track very soon, notably Noah Lyles, the fastest man on earth, who actually won the 100 meters in a photo finish, if you recall, and will race the 200 meters in just about an hour. Also, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone in the women's 400 hurdles also goes for the gold this afternoon. I'm excited, can you tell? CBS Saturday Morning co-host and CBS News and sports correspondent Dana Jacobson joining us live now from Paris. Dana, this is a big one. I'm nervous for Noah right now, as if I know what, he's got to undergo. But it's exciting.
Yeah, this is the thing that you think about with the Olympics. There's certain key moments, but track and field, you think of Jesse Owens, you think of Michael Johnson, Usain Bolt, Carl Lewis, of course, and the 4 golds in Los Angeles at the 84 Games. And Noah Lyles is trying to cement himself among those greats. And you said he's already won the 100 meters and did so in a finish we'll never forget. If he can win the 200 meters, he'll set himself up for a chance to have 3 golds at these Olympics with a relay as well. That's why you're nervous. And you mentioned Sydney also, and the 400-meter hurdles for the women. It's the showdown between Sydney and then from Norway, Femke Bol. It's the Olympic champion, the world champion. We've seen that so much here already, and that's why there's such a buildup and so much excitement for these moments, because you're out there on your own. This is a team Olympics. It's all about Team USA, but these athletes right now, not in a relay, they are on their own going for that gold.
Absolutely. On a cosmetic, superficial level, I see this jewelry that they're wearing, and I think, isn't that going to slow them down by 1/10 of a second? And I'm like, take that jewelry off, right?
Oh my God, I'm so with you. I say this every time because it's not like a light gold chain.
Right.
They look like relatively heavy, and I would think it's milliseconds. Everything. It's hundredths of a second that we saw was the difference. Even I joke about the long nails, and I would like to see somebody like Sha'Carri Richardson once win by a nail, because those are incredible as well.
Amazing. I think it's like swimming. We're thinking, you need to shave and have everything completely off. But anyway, on another note, let's get to basketball. Team USA facing off against Serbia in the next few hours. So tell us about where that is.
Yeah, this for U.S. fans, and it's sort of what it's been throughout the Olympics. It's Team USA versus the NBA guys from other countries who are playing. And the excitement when it comes to Serbia is Nikola Jokic. And you know him from Denver, you know him from the Nuggets, the former MVP. Now, Team USA has already beaten this team, the Serbian team, twice already in the last month. So you'd think, yes, an easy win, they'll get it again. But just don't put anything past the Joker. He can power this team to a victory. I still am leaning heavily with Team USA. They're playing such good defense, and they're playing team basketball at a time where it's really difficult. We talked to Sue Bird, the 5-time Olympic gold medalist, earlier today, and she was talking about both the women and men, how these teams are together for such a short amount of time that you're learning as you go. It's like putting an airplane together as you are flying the plane. And with each game, with each successive contest, the lineups get better, the comfort with each other gets better, and that's what I think we'll see tonight against Serbia for the U.S. men.
Oh, Dana, thank you so much. I'm excited for you to be there to witness history, as we all do. All right, Dana, thanks so much. All right, moving on to a new sport. It makes its Olympic pick debut tomorrow. It is called breaking. So if it looks familiar, you may recall, well, this is breakdancing. These moves have come a long way from the streets to the Paris stage. 29-year-old Jeffrey Lewis, known as B-Boy Jeffro, is one of 4 athletes representing Team USA in France. Unlike other Olympic event scoring, there are no points in breaking. It's all comparative.
There's musicality, execution, vocabulary, technique, and originality. After you do your round, the bar moves. Who was more musical? And then technical. Who was more technical? Who had more vocabulary? Who had more of an original approach or style?
Okay, and get it while it's hot, and here's why. The International Olympic Committee says breaking will not return for the 2028 Summer Games in LA. That's to allow sports like baseball and softball to be able to rotate in. All right, let's get more to our video monitors now, taking us to California. This just north of Chico, where the Park Fire, it continues to burn out of control. In fact, the flames covering more than 664 square miles. That makes this the fourth largest fire in state history. And while firefighters are containing 34% of that fire, we're talking hot and dry weather. It is proving very difficult just to close it off. And also burning in California, it is the fast spreading Grozier fire in El Dorado County. This is halfway between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. It is now covering over a square mile in a remote area with a lot of timber and thick brush. Several evacuation orders and warnings are in effect, with 12 active fires across the state. So Cal Fire officials want to reassure residents that they are able to tackle them and not spread themselves too thin. So they've contained 5% of that fire so far. All right, let's go to Jessica Birch now. And Jess, you know what these firefighters are certainly going through when it comes to air support.
Absolutely. They're sharing that airspace also with the California National Guard. These are photos from my unit and the California National Guard currently helping out on the Park Fire. So let's actually head over to the map real fast. Let's go right back to California, where we keep a close eye on the fourth largest wildfire burning in the state's history. Keep in mind, within the past 7 years, 9 out of the 10 largest fires have happened in the state of California. So let's turn on the map right now and let's take a quick look at what's happening. Right now, all below me, you see all that gray. We've been talking about it and reporting on it for weeks now. All that gray is showing poor air quality. Air quality alerts still in effect right now, stretching from Oregon all the way over into Idaho as that smoke plume brings over all that smoke. To add to that, though, we're also keeping a very close eye on temperatures, especially as we make our way down into the south. Daytime highs today, they're well above average, anywhere from Dallas with 104 today expected all throughout that region, all the way over into Jacksonville, sitting in the upper 90s too, just after that tropical storm swept through. Right behind me, we're going to start off with that first story. The smoke, though, still the big story right now, especially up in the Pacific Northwest, as fires burn just north of the Park Fire as well. All of that groups up together in the atmosphere, and that low PM 2.9 level, all of that pollutant matter still sticks around that region right now. Another thing to mention, we quickly shift our eyes all the way down to the south. Like I mentioned, anywhere from Dallas stretching over into Jacksonville throughout the next couple days. The heat risk is the big concern for us, especially in the south, and this comes right after they're still trying to recover from all of that devastation from the tropical storm. We'll have more on this coming up in just a bit, but Jules, it's a mess in a lot of parts of the states right now.
It absolutely is. Our hearts go out to all those.
Absolutely.
All right, Jess, thank you so much. This morning, let's go to San Diego. The San Diego Zoo officially opened its doors to a new exhibit called the Panda Ridge. Its residents, well, 2 giant pandas who arrived in San Diego on June 27th as part of a special conservation agreement. This is between China and the U.S., and they are the first pandas to enter the states in 21 years. In celebration of this occasion, California Governor Gavin Newsom also declared today California Panda Day. All right, coming up next, we're going to check in on our video feeds, taking us to South Carolina, where Tropical Storm Debby just made landfall for a second time near Charleston with sustained winds topping 50 miles per hour. You're watching CBS News 24/7. Get you to some breaking news. This out of Berkeley, California. Major police presence near the UC Berkeley campus. Multiple agencies right now are looking for a suspect wearing a red backpack. The school's notification says that gunshots were reported near the Clark Kerr campus track. So people right now, students especially, are being told to avoid the area. According to the UC Berkeley alert, police and emergency personnel are responding. And here's the latest information just from a warning that I got from UC Berkeley police. And they're describing the suspect as having bleached hair with possible red or orange highlights. These coming into students as well. So they are definitely taking this very seriously, and a lockdown is in place. So we'll continue to follow this and check our alerts as we get them as well. All right, let's go to our video feeds now, taking us to South Carolina. Tropical Storm Debby made landfall for a second time near Charleston with sustained winds topping 50 miles per hour. So as the storm moves inland, it continues to dump heavy rain, causing dangerous flooding and spawning deadly tornadoes. And we do have team coverage on Debby. Meteorologist Jessica Birch is tracking the storm's path. But let's check in now back with Christian Benavides live in Bladenboro, North Carolina. And what can you tell us now, and where are you at this point? Another neighborhood, I see.
Right. We're actually, we were sort of driving around Bladenboro just because we had to find our way. As I mentioned, we're planning to just sort of move to Lumberton, where there were some concerns about potential flooding. This continues to be Bladenboro. There are some good news in the middle of all of this. The water here has started to recede, and the reason we actually came here is because you weren't able to really see this parking lot earlier, but if you look right now, you're seeing part of the parking lot. It's still flooded, but all of this water is starting to move into the drainage system, which was overwhelmed overnight. So that's the good news. The bad news here, let me stay on the other side of the police line. The bad news here is that there is more rain on the way tonight. And that's what some of the business owners here have told me, that they're sort of concerned that they got this flooding, right? Main Street was flooded. Some of it has receded for the most part. And now they're concerned, well, we're going to get rain again tonight. What that could potentially do, if that could potentially also not let them get back to business. I mentioned to you that a pharmacy owner, he's looking to get back up and running as soon as possible because his pharmacy is the only one in town. So that's what people are doing right now. As I mentioned, people just sort of coming together to help everybody out. And at this point, what people are doing is picking up the pieces, trying to get their businesses back up and running, trying to make sure that any flooding that was there, that all of that, trying to clean that up. So the issue remains that they're getting some of these rain bands, or rather just rain, because it's something. It's not the rain bands that we were getting necessarily from Tropical Storm Debby, but it's certainly remnants of some sort of system that's over us that continues to bring us rain, and that's what people are worried about. The good news is water started to recede in some spots, but many roads here are still closed. I mean, you saw that that one road where the driveway is just completely underwater, and you can't even see the beginning of the home during our last hit. So we're seeing a lot of that around here. The only good news is that the main street here, the water has receded, but the water damage is still there.
Oh, that's the biggie, the water damage. Well, thanks for ending on the good news, and thanks for traveling all around in this hour to show us. Christiane, appreciate it. All right, we're going to go to Jess now for the latest. I'm amazed how he's able to go from spot to spot in that water, Jess.
Absolutely. And now the thing is everybody has their own weather story from this tropical storm because it's impacting everyone. It started down south in Florida, and now it's making its way up the East Coast as it starts to decay. So as you see the clouds right now turned on this map, you can see that just in the center, closer to Washington, D.C., as it makes its way to the north, closer to New York within the next 24 hours. Here's what's happening as we take a look all the way down just along that coastline. The National Weather Service has advised us with tropical storm warnings, flood watches, tornado watches also just along the coast, anywhere from actually, this is from North Carolina all the way up into Virginia now. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. Right behind me, what you see is where the storm is currently at. All that heavy rain is falling from Charlotte up into Raleigh, all the way up into Norfolk. Now, we're concerned about storm surge just along the coast, but we're also concerned about freshwater flooding as this continues to track its way up to the north and those winds start to die down. So like I mentioned, everyone has their own weather story from this. We had those strong winds down south, close to Florida. We have lighter winds now as it moves its way north, but that rain still continues to fall. And we keep a close eye on that rainfall as it slowly creeps its way up anywhere from West Virginia all the way up into New Hampshire and Maine just within the next 72 hours. Watching the total rainfall from this is pretty impressive too. Now, local communities could see anywhere up to around 10 inches of rain. But like I said, everyone has their own story. Some spots like Philadelphia, for example, only receiving an inch from this as it starts to decay. However, we're seeing closer to around 4 inches all the way over into Wilmington. So we keep a close eye on the severe weather outlook and enhanced risk right now, meaning a chance of thunderstorm activity and of course tornado threat. All from Norfolk all the way over into Raleigh. We'll keep a close eye on that. But for now, back to you, Jules.
All right, Jessica, appreciate all of that. Let's get to Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. They've postponed events in Georgia and North Carolina, all because of Debby. So they're spending a second day campaigning in Detroit. They're meeting with auto workers in Detroit this afternoon before heading on to Phoenix, Arizona. So Harris and Walz, they've been drawing huge crowds during the tour with an estimated 15,000 in Detroit just yesterday. today and 12,000 in Wisconsin earlier in the day. So the crowds show there is some momentum and enthusiasm, that is, among Democrats. Former President Trump is trying to blunt that momentum. And in less than 30 minutes from now, Trump will actually be speaking at Mar-a-Lago. And this is his actual first public appearance since Harris announced Walz as her running mate. So CBS News campaign reporter Torian Small joins us live from Cincinnati with the very latest. And I know you've been following J.D. Vance. So what is the message that he's trying to get across now to voters?
Well, he's looking to draw this contrast between accessibility of the candidates and the press. J.D. Vance yesterday had this almost dueling moment where he arrived in Wisconsin just shortly after Kamala Harris did for her event in the state. In fact, at one point, he walked over to her motorcade that was just about to take off from the airport there and confronted her her traveling press pool there and said, listen, you guys need to start pressing her like you guys have been pressing the Trump campaign. That's exactly what we're expected to hear from the former president this afternoon. He's expected to utilize this general press conference, as he's calling it, as a way to blast Harris for not being so forthcoming with the press as his campaign has been.
All right. Well, all eyes are on what they have to say, and especially on former President Trump in Mar-a-Lago when we expect to hear from him. Lorian, thank you so much for your report. All right. Well, today it does mark 1 year since wildfires began devastating the Hawaiian island of Maui. Coming up, we go back to the island to check in 1 year later with the damage and the emotional toll still remains. Today marks 1 year since wildfires began devastating the Hawaiian island of Maui. It is the deadliest disaster in modern U.S. history. More than 100 people were killed. To honor them, Hawaii Governor Josh Green has ordered flags to fly at half-staff today. The historic community of Lahaina remains devastated after it was largely wiped out. The flames left more than 3,000 families homeless. And 1 year later, many still don't even have permanent housing. This week, the governor announced a new temporary housing project to help put roofs over the heads of Maui wildfire survivors and hopes a new $4 billion settlement will help people start over. And it's a devastating new report. It details the struggles that people are still having because of the fire and what's happening during their daily life there. It finds residents are far more worried than hopeful. At least 70% of survivors have struggled to pay for groceries or find affordable housing. CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti returns to that island where the damage remains in the form of mental and emotional trauma.
The wildfire that tore through Lahaina claimed 101 lives. Nearly 1 year later, the physical scars remain. What you don't see,
it changed all of us,
is the terrifying mental toll.
The animosity, the energy, the negative energy, it's there.
Kia Kaina's downward spiral began when his father's body was discovered in the ruins.
He was found right outside the Maui Outlet Mall, right on Front Street, in his truck, and he had his little dog with him.
This is why remaining Lahaina strong can be so elusive.
I've had things sneak up on me and hit me a little differently. For a guy who was always positive about life, it put me in a little bit of a scary area where I would feel myself falling into the trap of suicidal thoughts.
Our CBS News team first documented this deadly mass evacuation days after the disaster. This was last August.
You could see the desperation in how these cars are lined up. We're talking dozens as far as you can see. There was so much panic as the fire hit.
Today, the cars are gone, but much of historic Front Street remains frozen in time.
It's surreal to be back, and it's surreal that so much of it does look the same.
It does. I think it's just a daily reminder of the trauma.
John Oliver is the public health program manager for Hawaii's Department of Health, making sure that people like Lynette Chun are getting access to mental health services.
The fire devastated me, and my mind was fractured.
How would you describe the crisis?
It's unprecedented. What we're seeing is grief There's uncertainty, there's anxiety, there's depression. So we have whole families that are impacted.
When Lahaina burned, it was not just a community that was lost. This was Hawaii's ancient capital, its rich history, the way of life passed down from generations. 12,000 people lived in Lahaina before the fire. 1 in 10 have already sought help for mental health. Oliver estimates that number could soon reach 1 in 3. While there are signs of progress, including some businesses that were undamaged now reopening, much of downtown is still a landscape marked by trauma.
The people of Lahaina must come back. I think that is what everybody wants. And so Lahaina is not Lahaina without the people.
I have a little baby that was my savior.
Kia Kaina finally found the help he needed. It was staring him right in the eye.
She was the reason why I think I held firm, I held tight, and I'm still here.
Out of the fury that ripped so much of Lahaina apart, strong bonds are what's keeping this community together. For Eye in America, I'm Jonathan Vigliotti in Lahaina.
And our hearts were always going to go out to them, too. Now let's take a quick look at what's happening just over the continental U.S. right now, from Florida stretching up into New York. Right now, we are keeping a very close eye on all the devastation that Tropical Storm Debby has caused. Now, it started off closer to Florida, just in the Gulf. At that point, we had about 80-mile-per-hour winds, causing a lot of storm surge and heavy downpours all throughout that state. Now, as we take a quick look at what's happening, turning on the clouds, we're watching that storm decay over mid-portions of that east coast, anywhere from North Carolina all the way up into New York. Now we're keeping a close eye on heavy flooding in those communities, as we head into the next 24 hours. Now, as we take a look at the map right below me, you're going to get a good look at what the National Weather Service has to say about this. All that greenish flash flood warnings and advisories, as well as tropical storm warnings that are still along that coastline. Storm surge is becoming less of a concern as this moves more inland, but take a look right behind me. This is where the storm is currently at. Heavy downpour still in South Carolina, stretching all the way up close to Washington, D.C. as we speak. And the storm is continuing to track north as we head into the next 72 hours. Here's the storm right now. The winds start to die down, of course, with this system. So our friends down in the south who are dealing with about those 80-mile-per-hour winds, that's going to look a lot different from the storm as it continues to head all the way up past West Virginia into Pennsylvania, just into our Friday forecast. This is now into Friday morning. At that point, it's stretching its way all the way up into Maine. We continue to keep a close eye on that total rainfall because areas can receive anywhere up to around 10 inches of rain still.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Absolutely.
All right, Jess, thank you so much. All right, a Nobel Prize laureate took the oath of office this morning in Bangladesh and is now leading the country's interim government. So this a few days after the president dissolved parliament. The South Asian country has been without a government since the former prime minister resigned and fled on Monday. For the last month leading up to her ousting, Bangladesh faced violent clashes between student protesters and police. Students were angered over government job quotas, which then led to the uprising. During the clashes, 300 people were killed. Russian-American ballerina Ksenia Karelina pleads guilty to treason in front of a Russian court. The dual citizen was on trial for a donation that she made supporting Ukraine. That was in 2022. And now prosecutors are seeking a 15-year sentence. Her hearing comes a week after we reported on the historic 24-prisoner swap between 7 countries, including Russia and the U.S. All right, let's take you live now. A look at Mar-a-Lago. In just a couple of minutes, former President Donald Trump is going to hold a news conference, the first since Kamala Harris has announced her vice presidential pick. So as you can see, the podium there, our cameras are there. We'll bring it to you and bring some excerpts from that live news conference as well. But for now, that's it for us on CBS News 24/7. We're streaming